My name is Jonathan Ingram, and I have the privilege of being the Executive Director of Faith Co-op. And we are so glad that you are here to take part in our 2023-24 Lunch and Learn series on Who is My Neighbor? Faith Co-op is a nonprofit in town, faith-based, and our mission is to awaken Christians to how their faith brings daily purpose. And one of the things that we do daily is go to a job. Most of you go to a job 40, some of you are going 40 to 60 hours a week of your life. And you also want to serve and honor God. And what we want to do is, through these events and through the things that we offer, give you a place, one, to meet people that share that value, that share that faith in Christ, that you can meet people that maybe you would never have met before. And then we want to provide opportunities for you to hear stories of how others in their industries are trying to imagine what it means to honor God in the work that they've been called to do. Right now we're in the middle. This is our third of a 6-part series on Who is My Neighbor? Last year we did a series on reimagining work, and one of the things that came up in every single one of our lunch and learns from our speakers was this idea that part of what it meant for them to reimagine their work in light of their faith was that there was this idea in Scripture about we're called to love God with all of our heart and love our neighbor as ourselves. And what was said was, I want to imagine what it means to love my neighbor in my work. We didn't have time to really dive into that, so this year in our Lunch and Learn series and the industries that we have come and speak, we want to do a little bit deeper dive on what does it mean, this concept of loving neighbor in the workplace, what that means. So we're really thankful that you're a part of this. On your table, there are some questions that I don't know if you got to look at them. Hopefully just trying to get your mind thinking about the topic today of the food and beverage industry and what that has meant for you personally. So I hope you've had a chance to look at those. If not, that's okay. But what we want to do is have a conversation today with two folks that have thought a lot about the work that they do and are driven at some level by the faith that they have that are going to do that. And I know some of you sitting in the room, some of you I don't. Most of you probably don't have a restaurant or a brewery that you run, and that is totally okay. Some of you do. But it's totally good if you don't, because the point of this is I want you to hear these guys who are experts in their field share about how their faith is helping them think about the work they're called to do. And whoever you are in this room, you are at some level an expert in your field. It's something that you think a lot about. And you might not do the exact same things and have the exact same problems that Jay and Kenyatta have. Jay was just telling me about a problem they were solving today around sugar, and you might not have to deal with sugar falling on the floor. But you have something that is driving in your work, and something is helping you think about it. And what we want to help you do is begin to imagine what it means in light of your faith in Christ, this thing that we oftentimes keep really personal in our hearts and in our personal life, how that informs the ways that we interact in the world and in the jobs that we're a part of. So thank you for being here. Thank you for engaging this. Kind of what's going to happen is Kenyatta and Jay, and I'll tell you a little bit about more who they are here in a second, they're going to come up here and we're going to have a conversation. There's some questions I gave them ahead of time, so they have a little sense of what we're going to talk about. And my hope is that as we're talking about these things, it's spurring your thoughts in your heart and your own imagination for your own place of employment, the place you're at. And at the end of a little conversation we're going to open it up for you guys to ask questions of Jay and Kenyatta that come to mind and that are on your heart from what kind of comes out of our conversation. So just know that's coming. So if you have questions at the end, we're going to leave time for that to happen. But I hope not only what happens up here is meaningful for you, but I hope you're leaving with a handful of new connections with folks that you had a chance to hear a little bit about what they do, hear a little bit about how what we talked about on stage impacts and helps them think about the work that they're doing, where they're at, as you're trying to think about the work you're doing. So Jay and Kenyatta, why don't you come on up? Jay Boyd is the co-founder of Odd Story Brewing Company that started 7 years ago this month, right? Yeah. And I'm really thankful to have him here. Kenyatta is a chef in town and has a restaurant, Neutral Ground. Some of you know him from the Reed House. Some of you know him from the old kitchen incubator in MLK. And he's in the process right now of launching his restaurant out on his own. Has been cooking in a long place. So I'm really thankful you always made time to do this. So can we welcome them up on the stage? So guys, I gave you a really quick intro because I want you to share with these folks more from your heart about who you are. So if you could just talk a little bit about who you are, a little bit more about the work that you do, and kind of how you ended up doing and get excited about what you're up to.
All right, I'll kick it off. So like you mentioned, my name is Jay Boyd. I am one of the owners of Odd Story Brewing Company. I got into the brewing world right after college. Coming to college, they did not have a brewing program. It was kind of at the height of a craft beer boom. Ended up, moving home, not finding a job, and started homebrewing with my dad. Turned into learning from another local brewery before going to brewing school. Fast forward almost 10 years now, here we are. So I think what drives me is the ability to create, the ability to work with my hands, and the ability almost to have and create a space for people of many different backgrounds, beliefs, ideologies, theologies to come together and sit in a room and talk. In the older days, before TVs, before any of those things, local politics happened in a local tavern or a local bar. And that's been kind of a driver for me to keep doing what I do, creating a product that is almost a segue into that. We'll see where this conversation goes, but I'm going to leave you guys with that as I pass it over to Kenyatta.
Talking about know your neighbor, Jay, our stories are really similar, and the reason why I do what I do. I'm Kenyatta Ashford. I own a business called NutriBrown here in Chattanooga. As he alluded to, I'm a chef by trade, originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. Moved to Chattanooga in 2003, and right now I'm trying to raise money to build out my own space. And part of my mission as a restaurant owner and a chef, and being a part of the Chattanooga community, is to engage my community. Hence, being on stage here and talking to you guys. And one of the things I do believe too that really is reflective of what Jay just said is food, beer, brewing brings everybody to the table, and one of the on my logo, one of the catchphrase is a commonplace. So we try to provide a space where people can come together and enjoy a meal and break bread. As we all know and stuff, there are many references in the Bible and everything about food and whatnot. So it's an integral part of daily life and culture and whatnot. So yeah.
You guys started answering my next question, but I wanted to have you guys elaborate a little bit more. Out of all the vocations in the world, why are you guys doing what you're doing? What do you love about it? From the craft standpoint, from the making. As Jay mentioned, using his hands and creating spaces. You kind of mentioned the same thing, Kenyatta. But when you were looking at it, what you wanted to do with your life and what you wanted to go into, what just really grabbed you and what keeps you going in an industry? Honestly, both of you are in industries that can be really volatile. You're lots of variables that go into the restaurant business, where you're trying to navigate that. What keeps you going? What's kind of your why for continuing in that industry?
Yeah, good question. I think for me, upon graduating college, I really didn't have a sense of what I wanted to do. I thought, and this is going to sound arrogant, I was like, I'm a decent looking guy. I should be a salesman. I could sell anything. People will trust this face. I tried selling. It was cold calling. Anyways, it didn't last long. I think I called twice before I was like, this is not it. And it really led to some 22-year-old introspection of what I thought I could do and what I thought was of value to people, to humans, to anything. And funny enough, my first thought was, well, I'll be a chef. Also, that didn't last long. I can't really cook at all. But I really loved the art of it. But I found myself being more in tune with a craft, something that had some guidelines, something that had a structure that I could exist within. And that's kind of how I found brewing. It was a process-based product that I could then interject different flavors or different spices, herbs, hops, fermentation schedules, you name it, to create a different product inside of some guidelines. And I think what drives me now, as I've been brewing, is, and my role has changed somewhat to the degree that I didn't even really expect. I was talking to, I think it was John DeVries earlier, there he is, about, would I do it again, or is this what you thought you were going to be doing? And years ago, I'd have said, yeah, I'll just be brewing beer. Now that's really only 5% of my time, if that, and the rest of it is managing. So now I think what drives me is the desire and the hope to enrich my employees' lives, more so than monetarily. Yes, monetary, value is huge in today's world. As we know, everything's super expensive, or at least it feels like that. So in what other ways can I support them? Can I grow them and, have more of an impact other than just I'm the guy they see on their 9-to-5 shifts? So
one of the things that drives me with my craft and my profession is being able to tell stories. Born and raised in New Orleans, went to culinary school in New York, and at one point along my journey to where I am now, and when I began, I had an epiphany that I wanted to find out more about who I was, and who I am, and where I come from, my ancestors come from, and everything. And so naturally, that tied into what I was doing as a profession and career and everything. So it led me to do some reading about foodways of the South and whatnot, and led me to do some more reading, and subsequently led me on the trip to go to Africa. And I have gone to Africa 3 times now, specifically to learn about food and the foodways of the West African people, and how that reflects the foodways of the American South. And telling stories, also providing opportunity for people. And one of the things that I began doing in between becoming a chef, actually becoming an entrepreneur — I was a chef already, but becoming an entrepreneur while I was working at the Reed House, is I started a supper club series called Full Courses In. And what we do with Full Courses In is we bring in chefs, nationally renowned chefs to the Chattanooga area, put on a dinner. We involve local culinary high school arts programs, high school culinary arts programs, and we get them to participate with the chefs and find opportunities for them to spend time with the chefs. It's really quick and everything, but just for students in our areas to see and kind of participate and get a view of what's possible for them, if they're serious about pursuing this as a career for their future and everything. Because as we all know, college is expensive. Going to culinary school is even more expensive. And before they make a decision to make that kind of commitment, and spend that kind of money and get into debt possibly, it's probably important that they really decide if this is something they want to spend the next 15, 20 years doing. Yeah.
Jay, you guys, like you said, your initial role of being the brewer, it's changed. Kenyatta, when you, as you've run a kitchen, you get to cook, but there's other things that you're doing besides the craft of cooking or brewing. And the food industry can be very transient at times, and people come and go. For you all, what's it been like to have a philosophy of caring for the folks that you have the opportunity to supervise or oversee in the work that they do in this type of industry that can oftentimes feel like an in-between job, for not for everyone, but for some folks can feel that way. And what's it look like to care for folks that are working for you and trying to do a good job in that space? And what's the best way to support them that you've seen in the food and beverage industry?
Yeah, so we have a few facets to our business. We have a brew staff, we have a tap room or front of house staff, we have a kitchen staff, and then we have a wholesale and sales staff. So we're fairly diverse in the type of people that we have on staff, and the type of employees that we have. You know, notoriously front of house and back of house being kitchen, you see people come and go often. We've been very fortunate with our front of house staff to have very little turnover. Some people say they're going to be there for life. I can't imagine working front of house for life, but maybe that's a different breed of people. And nothing to take away from them. They have a tough job coming in and, you know, seeing, you know, hundreds of faces, making those interactions great. But I think what I've learned, especially for the transient folks, you know, that come and go, or even the ones that stay, I think you get offered moments in these people's lives, you know, when they've come in and they choose to be vulnerable with you. Maybe they are having a bad day and they actually tell you. I think those are the small moments where I've learned I can care for my employees, whether it's just pulling them aside for 5 minutes in the office or even just giving them the office for 5 minutes to either breathe, make a phone call, you know, decide if today is just not a day where they can be there and be their best selves. So for me, especially now with the size that our business has grown to, yes, it's still a small business, but I think for me it's those small moments that I get randomly with each employee throughout days, weeks, months. I think those are the ones that people can come back to, and then that always opens up a conversation to be had later on.
As an entrepreneur, before I was a chef, I was a teacher here in Hamilton County. So my first foray in professional life as an adult. And one of the things that's similar to being a teacher and being an entrepreneur and being a food entrepreneur is you know, piggybacking off of what Jay was saying and stuff. You spend a lot of time with the people that you work with. You know, you spend a lot of time with the kids that you teach, you know, at least 8 hours a day, you know, at least 8 hours a shift, if not more than that and stuff, you know, and you're, you know, in the kitchen or in the front of the house, you know, you guys are, you know, a team, you know, kind of going to war together and everything. So it's really important that you create an environment where camaraderie exists, where brotherhood exists, where sisterhood exists, where family exists and everything. So naturally you want to make sure that you take care of those people and, you know, be a listening ear when the time comes. You know, give a bit of advice when the time comes if needed, or if somebody needs help with something and stuff, you know, hey, let's go out in the back and talk about it in the walk-in. You know, let's go cry in the walk-in, you know. But, you know, trying to create an environment for people to be successful. And, you know, and that can look, you know, a number of different ways. But just staying focused on that and everything and making sure that you creating an environment for people to be successful and to bring their best foot forward, because obviously, you know, your success is their success.
You know, you guys have been giving really good principles about what it means to care for employees. But I want to know how your faith informs that. Is there any kind of things about what you believe about who God is, about these people that you're caring for, from that is driven by your faith and from Scripture that drives you into care for folks in the way that you're just describing in a really beautiful way? You don't always have to go first either. Either of you can go. So
He takes my answer. I'm saying that.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
I think, you know, I think one of the things that we can take away from Scripture is, you know, that Christ, you know, was more than anything he said and stuff, you know, he was an example. You know, so like we can, you know, give a bunch of rhetoric and everything, but I think being an example of how you walk daily and live your life, how you treat people, versus anything else, I think is key. And you know, it goes back to being able to create the environment for people to be successful. And I think, you know, being an example by, you know, showing the work up, being the work on time, working hard, doing what you say you know, that you say you're gonna do, and not, you know, and not do as I say, and that kind of boss and stuff, you know. Yeah, I think you know that answer is pretty simple, but I think it speaks volumes. So, yeah.
Yeah, he took my answer.
Stop it.
No, servanthood for sure. Being a servant leader is my answer to that question. Showing and being a leader that will never ask someone to do something that I'm not willing to do. I mean that in and of itself will speak volumes to your employees. So being a servant leader, being the one to step in and, you know, do a task that's not fun, cleaning a grease trap. I mean, you name it, things that are just stinky work. Being able to step into those roles, and just do it and be in it with your employees, and not just over your employees is the answer to that question for sure for me.
Yeah, you both kind of described what it means to try to embody some of Christ's principles, right? You both kind of mentioned that. Philippians 2, it's a beautiful example of him lowering himself. Matthew talking about how he came to serve, not to be served. And man, what a cool way to think about that in your context. There's all kinds of ways, though, to supervise and lead folks. How does this concept of loving your neighbor, in light of the things you guys just described, why does this fit in the food and hospitality industry? Why should we care, as Christians, why should we care about the food we eat? Why should we care about drinking good beer? Why are these things that we should care about as believers?
So this is kind of a core memory for probably everybody in the room, right? So when everybody was born, one of the first things that the doctor did, you know, they cut the umbilical cord, you know, they slapped you on the behind and made you cough and everything. They swaddled you and they put you in your mother's bosom and you drank from your mother's milk, right? So, I mean, sustenance, nourishment is core for who we are. You know, without it, you know, we can't function, we can't do anything that we need to do and stuff, you know. So, I mean, it's so much symbolism in that, you know, with in the Bible, with, you know, Christ and our traditions and religion and church and stuff, you know, breaking bread, you know, we say that phrase and stuff, you know. So I think give me the question again.
How does our faith in Christ, why should we care about the food and hospitality industry? Why does this matter?
I mean, good food and drink is important. I mean, eating good food and drink is important for our health, for us to be able to function and whatnot. I can probably go off on a tangent about why we need to, you know, buy local organic ingredients and stuff like that, but, you know, that's another story. But I just think speaking to that core memory that we probably only have, you know, first being born and being nourished by a mother and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you touched on it earlier, especially with your brand. It's common. Everybody needs food. Everybody needs drink. So it's only right that we would offer those things inside of this space, right? It's something everyone needs. No, not everybody needs beer. Not everybody needs, you know, 4-star Michelin food. But there is a commonality that human needs. And I think it's important for us to exist inside of this space as a representation of what we believe. And it being seen in that space is also huge. You know, it's something that myself and my family has wrestled with. I mean, we are in the alcohol business. You know, when you say that and you face that, it doesn't sound great, right? You know, it can be challenging. It can really force you to think about your purpose and not get lost in, you know, the earthly side of that. You know, just being there to work, to try to just make beer, to just try to sell beer. I think there's a lot more at play. And I think also, I was reminded when I saw Ross, he is literally my neighbor at the brewery. And you don't know who those people necessarily are until you're in that space. So I think I'm starting to ramble now too. But I think it's important for us to be in these spaces because it all ties back to what humans need.
Noah Wurzba is a theologian. He talks about the vulnerability of eating with someone, whether it gets on your clothes or your mouth's open, you're doing something that takes away a power dynamic because we all need it. And I love that how you guys kind of describe that. It's really cool. You guys are both entrepreneurs. You're not just in a kitchen. You're not just in a brew pub. You are owner operators, and entrepreneurism, and there's others in the room that are in this space. It requires taking a step of faith. Jay, that was 7 years ago for you. Kenyatta, you are in the throes of that right now. Can you talk just a little bit about how your faith, how your personal faith is informing these steps of faith that you've had to take, whether you're still having to take 7 years in and you're taking now, and what that means for where you're at in your industry and in your business?
Yeah, I think a simple answer for that question for me is now at this point, we have an established business, and it's kind of, up to us on which direction we take it, what other avenues we want to travel down. I think it's summed up easiest by saying it's a prayerful and thoughtful decision. Bringing those things before God, asking for advice, and then allowing that advice to be unfolded for you, is the easiest way to sum up that answer for me. Is you pay attention to your industry trends and what you see, whether it be the next smoothie, sour beer, or ridiculous fruited IPA, at least for me. But where you go as a business and what you want your brand to stand behind and be and do are things that require that thoughtful and prayerful introspection.
For me, I wouldn't say my business is established quite yet. We've had a lot of publicity since we opened Neutral Ground in 2020 during the pandemic. Got to be on national TV, on Chopped, and was on the news and on numerous amount of times, and things like that nature. But on the outside looking in, all that looks nice, but not having the space, not having a way to really generate revenue on a consistent basis has, honestly, has been a struggle. Trying to figure it out, because, being in the incubator, then going from being in the incubator as a full-service restaurant to doing full-time catering, that's not really what you're supposed to be doing, everything. And, so it's kind of like you're in limbo, and that definitely will test your faith. Should I keep doing this? How do I need to pivot? What decision I need to make? Do I need to quit? Comes across your mind, quite a bit. Am I doing the right thing? There's a lot of questions that pop up. Besides, seeking encouragement, from other people, finding encouragement in yourself, being prayerful about it, and just, being steadfast, and standing on your faith and everything, knowing that, okay, if you keep working towards your goal, you'll get to where you really want to be and where you need to be. And if you quit, it will never happen. So just being determined and having faith in that way, really being steadfast, about the vision and about the goal, and doing a lot of walking probably.
Faith involves walking for sure. Last question for you guys that I have is, what do you hope people take away from their time in your restaurant that you want to open, in the brewery? What do you hope they're taking away? And how does your faith inform that hope and desire for the folks that are walking in your space as they spend time, whether that's the vision you have for moving forward?
You want to
I'll go first. So I was telling a friend the other day, one of my favorite scriptures, and in the Bible is 1 Corinthians 13, and it talks about love. And one of the memories I have from a kid, and one of the things that really kind of allowed me to figure out that, cooking and hospitality was my purpose, is a memory from having a dinner with my mom when I was a little kid. And amongst anything else, my family and I, grew up in a family of 7 kids, so a lot of kids, and everybody's big like me, so we eat a lot, and having like a really good meal was always central to our family gatherings for the holidays. And no matter what was going on, my mom always made sure, that she, was able to provide that for us and everything. So that love that I felt as a kid, with our family coming together, everybody was always excited about, going to my Auntie Sharon's house, to get some gumbo and some cornbread dressing and oyster dressing and stuff and whatnot. And just being in that environment, I didn't know at the time that it was influencing me, and it was going to cause me to get into the hospitality industry and everything. But to make people feel seen and make them feel loved, I think is a key experience I want people to encounter when they eat at Neutral Ground or have an experience with us. Yes.
Yeah, I think for me it's very similar. I think when people walk away from an experience at our brewery, I definitely want them to think it was of quality in time spent, in money spent, and in beverage and food consumed. So I think the same feeling of there is space for me here is one of the key things I want people to take away, whether it's from the conversation they had, sitting at long beer hall tables with people they didn't know, or whether it's from the just ability to go outside and sit either by a fire pit or on, an Adirondack chair and just have time and space to think. I think that creating something to allow people into to have conversations they may not have expected or have alone time that maybe they were in search of is something that in today's fast-paced world and busy world that people don't have a lot of. There's always a distraction. If it was up to me, we wouldn't have Wi-Fi so people couldn't use their phones or internet, but that would just be bad business, so we can't do that. But yeah, having space for people and allowing people to take up that space.
Yeah. From my personal experience eating at Neutral Ground when I was at the incubator, from frequenting the Odd Story, both those places and experiences caused my wife and I, and at the brewery with all my kids too, to linger. We stayed longer than we thought. It went faster than we thought. The conversation was deeper than I thought. We even noticed the food and the beverage and talked about it more than I thought. And these spaces that, I just want you to hear that the spaces that you create are providing that. And a lot of the people sitting in the room have experienced that. And I just think, how cool it is to talk about food and drink right now on this earth when we look in Revelation at what heaven is going to be. One of the biggest descriptions of what our life is going to be is a feast, is this wedding feast, this table where that lingering lasts even longer. And so what a cool thing that you guys are creating spaces and have a heart for food and beverage in a way that in my life personally, and I'm sure for others sitting in this room, has caused that lingering to happen even now. The thing that we hope for one day fully, that happens now. I was just going to close my time and then we'll open up for questions. Just a quote, I was looking over a book I love called We Will Feast by Kendall Vanderslice, and she says in the book, Jesus wants his followers to eat bread, drink wine, and feed others, and in that way to participate in the restoration of a deeply broken creation. And so thank you guys for what you do. Can we thank them for sharing from their heart? Well, we have a few minutes left. If there's questions out here, we'd love to give you a chance to dialogue back and forth with Kenyatta and Jay.
I just want to say hi to Mike Robinson, who's the owner and founder of Proof, where Nutri-Brown first started. We'll let him know we appreciate the opportunity that he gave us, to start our business there.
Yeah, so the question, if you didn't hear, is how in this market where you guys are not the only restaurant, only brewery in town, what does loving your neighbor look like with your competitors that are also doing the same thing you're doing in that space?
For the brewing industry specifically, we all know each other. It's a small community. You got another brewery owner in the house. You're probably hoping to not get called out, but you are. I think what we've been able to do is cultivate a group of breweries and brewers in town that only want the common good. We want to see them all succeed. When one brewery goes out of business, it's bad for all of us. It's not us capturing a new share of people because their favorite spot closed. It's more that we're all on the same playing field and we all have the same common goal. And that has manifested itself in us borrowing ingredients from people when we're short, and then lending them out when other people are short. So, in the brewery world, our common thing is like, we're not trying to take another local's tap line. We're trying to take down Budweiser. Obviously, that's a huge undertaking that we'll never succeed in doing. But it is true that the goal is not to take a Five Woods tap line or take a Chat Brewing tap line. It's to find a niche, draft offering and plug a different hole that maybe a bar or restaurant is looking for. So yeah, it's just that in a nutshell. And then, obviously, as business owners and people listen to what you say. People will try to pinpoint you on making you say that X, Y, and Z brewery's beer is bad, and it feels like they gotcha moment. And steering away from that conversation and trying to redirect it into something positive is another way that we try to do that.
I think that holds true. It's similar for us too. I mean, Chattanooga is a small market. Everybody knows everybody. When we were at the incubator, when we didn't have a dishwasher, I would call one of my chef friends, and hey, can you come help us out? They would come and wash dishes for us. I've had other chef friends that come in and work a shift as a cook for us and stuff. As we were short staffed and everything. So, and one of the things I really try to live by and encourage by is because we're a small community. It's important for us to be tight knit. And two things I would say is that I think this is really cliche, but a rising tide raises all ships. But honestly, I'm not competing with anybody else. I'm competing with myself. So what I want to do is focus on being the best I can be, putting out the best food I can, and my team can, and making sure that we're serving the customers the best that we can and everything, and not focused on what anybody else does. It's kind of a John Wooden maxim or a philosophy that he had, when he was getting ready for one of the opponents and stuff. He wasn't necessarily looking at a scouting report and focusing on stopping this player or this player. He was more focused on making sure that they executed what they did the best that they could. So yeah.
I'm not in y'all's industry, but it makes me just think about all of our industries and what it means that how we define our identity in the work we do can be defined by comparison to others, or can be defined from something innately inside of us. And what you guys both just described is something that is coming from a place of what you mentioned earlier of service, and the identity piece there that leads to that. And so I think that's really neat that both of you went that way and said this is something we do together. And when so often competition can be what defines our success or our excellence in something. So that's really cool. Any other questions? We got time for probably one or two more. Hudson?
What's your favorite beer and dish that you're making right now? How about?
Favorite beer I'm making right now, I'm always partial to Belgian style beers. It's what I learned to brew, and they hold a very special place to me. So matter of fact, today got hung up working on it, but and we're brewing a Belgian dark strong. So, it being cold, having that kind of big alcohol warming, 10-ounce pour of a Belgian dark beer is near and dear to my heart.
I have a favorite dish that I haven't actually made yet. So it's in ideation and everything. I'm kind of, as I was talking about, I've been learning about West African cooking, and it's a dish that I've been infatuated with called mafe. And it's you can make it with beef or lamb or whatever and stuff, but it's a braised dish with lamb and a peanut sauce. And my idea for the dish is to make it with lamb neck and lamb shank and some fermented okra and this thing called powdered yam or fufu that you might encounter when you go to West Africa. So.
Well, I've had lunch. I'm very hungry now. John, do you have a question?
Good.
Yeah, it's kind of twofold, honestly. What I've learned is, as I've tried to manage that way, you have people that respond to it, and then you have people who try to find ways to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Knowing that you care about them maybe more than another boss would, can lead to some potential sticky conversations and situations. So I think to answer that, it does create more of a potentially tense situation, but I do hope and believe that the employees that see where you're coming from and feel that you care about them do and will stay around longer. And in one of our philosophies for our businesses, we're always trying to find the next man up or next woman up to step into a larger role. So when we see potential or see someone that wants to continue to grow with us because they like what they've been offered and what they're doing currently, we try to find ways to plug them into the next thing that they're interested in, whether it be brewing, social media, marketing, sales, you name it. We kind of have multiple avenues that people can move up through.
I would say, the restaurant business, hospitality business is a transient one, and people move back and forth. There are fewer people than not that get into the restaurant business because it's a profession that they want to do for the rest of their life or career, especially at the lower level, being a front of the house person or the back of the house person. So naturally, that makes the business transient. But I would say the thing that I would focus on, that I do focus on, is to try to create a culture surrounding the environment that we want to create. And I think once that's established, people can decide for themselves and stuff. Is this a place where I can grow? Is this a place where I'm being taken care of? Where I'm being nurtured and everything. And I think putting it that way, it allows you to, one, weed out the people that probably don't need to be there, and also allow you to pour into the people that need to be there.
Thank you guys so much. Can we thank them one more time? Well, I hope you left with a few things to be thinking about, a few new ideas that are on your heart. Feel free to linger, but a couple quick announcements. One, thanks to First Things First for letting us use this amazing space and being here. If you're not on our newsletter, do we have a newsletter code out here? Go to our website. It's faithcoop.org. It looks like Faith Coop when you write it out, faithcoop.org. And at the bottom of the page, you can put your email address in, and you'll get emails that will let you know when we have future events coming up. Look for some more in January. Also, on your table, though, is a QR code. We are in our end of the year giving. We are a nonprofit. To make these things happen, we are so thankful for so many folks, and a lot of folks even are in the room already who help us make this happen. We want to put those codes out there, and just if you're up for an end of the year gift to support the work that we're about, to invite folks into these types of conversations, we'd love your support. You can come talk to me more about it if you want to do that too. But those are on the table, just so you know. Thank you so much for being here. Blessings to you as you go back. I know most of you are going back to your work today. May you go with renewed vision and encouragement that you have a chance to honor and serve the Lord through the way you care and serve the other people you work with and those that you're called to work for. So thanks for being here. Thank you.